So, Amber, what is a public matter for this week?
Well, I'm a bit all over the place, but I'm going to do...
Should we light a fire under you?
Not that I need another one, no. 15-minute cities. That's what I'm going to discuss. Then we're going to go into how much more billions Ukraine is getting. I also want to talk about the Maui fires. Which
Maui fires.
I don't really know a lot about. I just know that
there's a lot about fire this week, isn't there?
There's a lot about fire.
That's kind of coincidental.
In my own life and in Maui, and then whatever happened to the fires in Canada? Did we ever hear anything back about those?
The fires in Canada are off the radar. So why don't we get going with, what do you want to start with? You want to talk about money for Ukraine?
Yeah, let's go into that one first, because
right.
I haven't really done a lot of research about Ukrainian money since I
don't think there's a lot to know, except they want more money.
I just find it to be, and then I saw something about $700. Somebody is getting $700 for
Maui.
No, it's not for United States. It's not anything for United States. We're issuing $700 a person for something else.
Oh, I hadn't heard about this.
Man, I should have clicked on it. I saw a headline and I was like, oh my God. But so we're sending $24 billion to Ukraine again.
Yep, that's what he's asking for. So do you realize that Ukraine, we don't have any treaties with Ukraine. We're supporting them just out of the... You know who's paying for this, though?
Well, the taxpayers.
That's right. Every time they say, they want more money, anytime they say, it's government that this is this, it's taxpayer this or this. So... Right.
But we don't get to vote on it. They do.
That's right, because we're a representative republic. Remember this? But
yeah. This is why I'm not a fan of big government. But hey, I like little government. But I don't know anything. I don't know the difference between...
The founders talked about that.
Yes.
$24 billion to Ukraine. Now, we're going to give money to save a democracy over there, because they say it's a democracy over there. Let's call it a democracy.
Okay.
So we're all concerned in this country about, we've got to preserve their democracy to preserve our democracy and yada-da-da-da. But guess what's going on over there? Okay, Zelensky, he had biolabs over there. Mm-hmm. Whatever happened to the biolabs? How many were those? 11? I think there was 11.
I think there was.
That were secretly there that they let out. Of course, that's all been hushed up. Nobody talks about it. And let's see what we got. One of the largest countries in Europe, as we know, for human trafficking and child trafficking is what? Oh, Ukraine. Oh, yes. Isn't that a wonderful place?
Hey, and I think Biden's son or Biden was part of some kind of money grab with Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. Burisma.
Right.
Burisma.
So
you got to preserve that money laundering machine.
Well, you got to preserve the sex trafficking and the money.
That's correct. I mean, hey,
they've got all the major components of our society. We've got the biolabs, the sex trafficking, and the bribery for the United States.
And let's talk about Zelensky as a politician. We can talk about a democracy over there. So what's he do with his... because it's a war, right?
Right.
What's he do? Because, do you know that you can still go on vacation in Ukraine? Do you know Ukraine is playing Russia in various games around the world? Is this really a war? But anyway, I digress. So what does he do because it's a war? He gets rid of his opposition. In fact, there is no opposition party. There is no elections this year. In fact, he had his opposition party's leader arrested, a year or two ago?
I think it's 2 years ago, but yeah.
And so we want to preserve all these things. We want to protect a human trafficking, child trafficking, a money laundering scheme, biolabs. We also found out about nuclear power plants and so forth in Ukraine. And we're supposed to be supporting a democracy over there that was anything but. So isn't this interesting? You're going to give them $24 billion, and you know they're going to get it. You know he's going to
they're
get it.
going to get it. And they've already gotten how many billion before that? I wish I could remember the number.
I think the number right now is over $60 billion.
So,
but how much was it going to cost? $5 billion to complete the wall, and the Democrats are up in arms. They couldn't afford the wall back about 4 years ago. That was just going to crush us.
Right. I find it to be a bit fancy that we as a country pay all these other countries money. That there's not a country that pays us money.
Oh, that's right. Let's see. We fund Israel's defense.
Yeah.
We support all these other people. But does another country's taxpayers' money come into this country for anything? No.
But yet we are allowing a bunch of different countries to come into our United States, and we're okay with it. But yet the farmers from South Africa aren't allowed here.
Or in Canada, or in Europe.
Or in France,
England.
or Australia. Like, they're just not allowed.
Well, we talked about that last week.
Right.
Thousands are not allowed here.
So, but I just can't get over the fact that we just keep dishing out money. Where does this money come from?
You and me.
Yeah, but we can't be making billions of dollars. There's no way that our tax dollars are billions of dollars. There has to be there's something else. They get $24 billion plus whatever we pay the government to do whatever the hell.
See, I don't know if this is going to come out of some pool of money under that last debacle of a budget deal that people like Jim Jordan, Margaret Taylor Greene, and of course McCarthy and all them supported. All the rhinos there, they talk about this and that, but when it comes down to the brass tacks, I mean, they're the biggest supporters of the Democrats that you could ever believe. But anyway, yeah, are they going to print 24 more billion, or is this coming out of what was already printed for this last?
I don't know. That's the thing, is that like our dollar is already dwindling. Russia and China are using what is it, the yen?
Well, they are. The U.S. has been taken off from the petrodollar, so there's a lot of countries purchasing oil and gas and so forth with the Chinese yen.
Which tells you right there that we're already at a downward spiral of not being the top of the line. So
absolutely.
Why are we continuing? At this time, we should economize. We should not be dishing out money to other countries for anything. We should try to figure out what's happening in our own country and handle what's happening here. Yeah. It makes no sense to me that we are losing our stature as the petrodollars. We're not doing that anymore. No. And we're still, money is flying out the door before we even print it. We're not even done printing it before we are saying, hey, here's another $24 billion.
See, here's some basic economics. For anybody that's watching this, I just want you to realize that you have a certain value to something, and they'll say its true value is whatever, like $10, for instance. Now, what you're doing is saying this has no more value to it, but we're going to print more money. So the money you have now, let's say 20 $1 bills to cover it. So what you've done is you've watered down the value of every dollar that's out there. That's inflationary in and of itself. So what we're talking about here is adding potentially another $24 billion on the top of everything else. Not to mention we're funding something that is fundamentally wrong. There's a country over there that is not a freedom loving country. It is a cesspool of problems, and I encourage everybody out there to go and look at the problems that are going on, and we just outline them.
So, I'm still in awe that we are giving them more money. I just feel that it's not exchange. What does the Ukraine do for the United States to earn this $24 billion?
Well, I know. I'll tell you what. This is what they've done. There is I believe it's about a $15 million mansion in Florida. That belongs to Zelensky.
Correct.
So they're paying taxes on that. That's the only thing I can think of besides laundering U.S. dollars to certain politicians that are in office right now.
That must be the thing, because $15 million is not going to give us $24 billion to give in tax.
Yeah, we're not getting anything from them. They give us no protection. They're losing this war. Do you remember the guy, the guardsman from, I think it was New Hampshire, when he divulged that information.
Yeah.
And that's the information he was putting out there. He was a whistleblower. He put out information that said that the news and the Pentagon and all that, they're lying, and they are lying, and we're lying about the successes in Ukraine. The fact of the matter is, Russia is kicking ass in Ukraine with very little effort. This is not a full-blown war over there. They could have went through that country like a knife through hot butter, and they're not. What they've done is they have systematically drained the resources of Ukraine, and their military is diminished.
Trying to drain our resources as well.
There's a bigger picture here.
Of course, yes. The picture is that if they drain United States' money and dollar, and drop it to Zimbabwe $1 trillion, we are then going to have to ask them for help, or they're just going to come take it over, and we're going to be like China and Russia. It's not going to be United States as a playing card.
Well, look how they've actually hurt us. Being involved, like we've had. Okay, we've got the pipeline that was blown up there. What was the name of the pipeline? It's escaping me right now.
I don't remember.
Anyway, there's strong evidence that the United States was involved in the blowing up of the pipeline. I can't remember that name. But anyway, we have that. We have the fertilizer is no longer being shipped from Ukraine anymore. They were a major producer of fertilizer. We lost that. Grain as well. So they've really affected not only our energy, which is inflationary, but they've also affected our food production and food as well. They were a huge producer of grain. So when you talk about the price of food and inflation, we've had more impact by supporting Ukraine in this damn war that we don't have any treaties with. We are the ones that are truly suffering through this war. And if there's a real reason for being in it, you couldn't bring the United States down more unless you wanted to by being involved in this damn war.
Right, because then what happened was we did that, or we got involved, and then we slapped Russia's hands about, we're not going to let you touch your money or whatever back when it originally started. So then Russia said, okay, cool, we're just going to go to China and use China's money.
Right.
And so that caused the two of them, despite the fact that they both want to be, the one world order, but they are now amicable to each other to allow the petrodollar to go non-existent. And then we're not even like looking at that as like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because I think our oil reserve is really low. And yet, how are we going to buy more oil if we're just dishing out money to Ukraine?
Well, we're also you got the inflationary aspect of this. So it's a big circle, and you're exactly right. Here we are shelling out this money that we don't have, and they're printing it left and right, which is inflationary.
Right.
And we are part of the cause of what's going on as far as the cost of energy going up, and so we have inflation on one hand that we're causing by printing this money to support the war. The war involves a pipeline, fertilizer, grain, etc., and plus our aid package to them, which includes cash and military hardware. And not to mention, there are U.S. soldiers on the ground over there. Anybody want to go into that one? We got U.S. soldiers on the ground in Ukraine right now.
Right, so they pulled them from Afghanistan.
Nord pipeline. There it comes.
Oh,
I finally got the Nord pipeline. I don't know why I could not get that through my head. But anyway.
So, my question is that, so the Federal Reserve, which isn't federal, is printing more money to give to Ukraine when we, the people, could just say, hey, let's audit the Fed and stop this whole process, but we don't.
Yeah.
I'm still all for the whole Ron Paul audit the Fed, but that's me.
It's never going to happen.
No.
And it's interesting to note that, and where is our Secretary of State in this? We never hear from our damn Secretary of State in any of these issues that are going on with Ukraine. It's like the front man for all this stuff is Biden, Biden, Biden. You never hear from our damn Secretary of State. You never do. It's like we're operating in silence here. And where is our Vice President?
Oh, she's telling us about what AI means.
Yeah.
So, and also the energy buses, which are basically impossible to make. So, and I'm not a fan of the whole lithium batteries. My own debacle with lithium battery. Yeah. I'm not a fan of doing the electric.
Well, your little issue with lithium batteries is not so bad. You remember the car carrier that burned?
Yeah.
Lost an entire car carrier, and there's other things too. Yeah, if you haven't known, there was a car carrier, and I can't remember the name of it right now. It's got an interesting name. It was carrying, I think, around 500 electric vehicles, and one of them that was being hauled over there in the car carrier went up in flames. So if you know anything about these batteries, these flames, these fires are very difficult to extinguish.
Yes.
So you have a car carrier that is essentially wasted. I think there was 2,300 cars that were on board that ship, and it's gone. It's a floating hulk. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not a fan of the whole, I guess, climate change, lithium battery.
Yeah, climate change.
Lifestyle. That's definitely not where I'm going at all whatsoever. I want the fossil fuel, and I'm sticking to it. I guess that's where I'm headed. But that is going to lead us into our. We'll talk about the 15-minute cities, and then
I don't know much about them except the big, broader picture. I get the whole deal. Everything is there. Everything is within 15 minutes.
Right. Everything is within 15 minutes. So you have, and that you won't need to use a car.
Yeah.
You will only need to bike or walk. And so, but here's the downside of it is that, so you have these 15-minute cities, but how are you supposed to get things to these 15-minute cities? What?
Well, there'll obviously be a support network to it. But
right. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I had this thought here. I watched something on 15 Minute City that's being built over in, I think, Bahrain.
Yeah.
And it's massive. And they were showing the security for these things. If they wanted to lock the entire city down with everybody in it, you could not leave your apartment or whatever. If you were at a restaurant or if you were in the street, they're building into this the capabilities to monitor your every single move, everything you say, and your ability to leave at will if you choose.
Right. So here's the thing. That's
How
the part
dystopian.
That's the part that they're not telling you about. So they tell you 15-minute cities, great for the environment. It's good for you economically because you won't need a car. You can have a bike, and those are cheaper to buy, and everything is within 15 minutes. So that's the idea, is everything's within 15 minutes. But what they're not telling you is that they're popping up in places that have no other resources. So these cities have to be self-contained, which would mean that they could lock them down at any time, or they're thinking in terms of you can get a ticket, like, hey, you want to go to this? Here's your ticket for the month. So you get like one ticket out. Now, if you don't pay your bills or something, you could possibly lose your ticket, or you could sell your ticket. Yeah. And so they're thinking that this is a good idea because then it's more like...
what did Klaus Schwab say? You'll own nothing and like it?
Right. And he's very big. That's who's funding a lot of these different... Because they're actually opening, like, I think Paris wants to try some. I know there's some in Saudi Arabia that they want to do. I think actually Portland, Oregon is trying to redesign some of their areas to make them 15-minute cities. Now, the problem with this is also you have to think about free will. So what if you decide you no longer want to be part of this 15-minute city and you want to leave? And then a whole group of you leaves. Well, then that's going to change the economics of this 15-minute city. Yeah. Because you're now moving out, and they were counting on... Because here's the thing. They have to funnel in the food. They have to funnel in all the things because there's no farms around. There's no, like... different things that you would need, gas. I guess you don't need gas. I'm sorry, because you would never use your car. So
and you would not have the means to leave.
Well, that's what they're hoping for.
You're sequestered.
Right. So you would only have a bicycle or your 2 feet. So there's no way of leaving this.
Right. And do you know? Here's another thing. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Ahead. I actually had a thought, which it hurt, but you don't own any of this stuff.
No, because there are also no like real houses. They're all like housing. So
Right.
you would end up leasing the house, essentially, or the apartment. You don't really have a house. I guess the guy who's really big push of it is Carlos Monoro. I think it's how you say his name. He does TED Talks on it. He talks about how great it would be for the economics and how great it would be for climate activists and climate change and equality. But the problem is that it causes a little bit of confusion when it comes to central planning, because you can't actually, like Thomas Sowell says, you can't actually solve everything with central planning.
Not to mention, the way cities used to develop, there was an economic reason for people to be in an area, and it, through trade and its position, there maybe next to a river or wherever it was, it grew because of economics. These things are all planned. Now, the architecture is already planned. It has no character except for the character that it's given. It's not organic. It doesn't come from within. It comes from from outside.
Right.
So this is really dystopian. As far as I'm concerned, this is 1984.
Oh yeah, completely.
This is
like
craziness.
It just, like I saw this video on why architecture isn't pretty, or why we have cities that don't look attractive.
Right.
And I thought actually it was because it was cheaper.
Right.
But in reality, it's just to make it so that everything is the same. It all looks general and all looks normal.
No character.
Right. And so you think to yourself, oh, well, this is where I live. This is what it is. You don't think like, oh, someone could build something that looks amazing. You're thinking that it is just, it's cheaper, but the materials are the same.
But you could also have a city, let's say in the Middle East, that would have the exact identical layout and the same architectural design as a city, let's say in Europe. You could have exactly the same thing. So this street corner looks identical to that street corner. You could potentially have all those things. The buildings in it are exactly the same, made from the same material. The colors are all the same. And if you look into this a little bit, and I have very little exposure to this stuff, but look what they're planning to do, and they are building these right now.
Oh yeah, China's got some. I know France wants to try some, and it's funny because like back in the day, the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher had no interest in any of this kind of thing. But that's many.
I didn't know
years
it was
ago.
thought about it back then.
Yeah, well, it wasn't called 15-minute cities, but they were trying to build small communities that could be controlled essentially and regulated by, and it's all based on climate. Mm-hmm. Climate.
Of course, they've got to have a vehicle to push it, which is climate, right?
Right,
Save the
and
Earth.
so they're trying to make it so that it supposedly it brings poverty rates down, which I'm not sure how that works. It brings, supposedly they say China does it or likes to start promoting it because it brings down obesity, which I didn't know China had a problem with. But yeah, so there's different ideas that are going with these 15-minute cities. But they have changed their names over the years. I don't know if they're going to. They're obviously going to go. I just don't know how fast they're going to push them. I know with COVID, it was a little bit easier for them to do it, especially in the UK. So, I'm not.
I don't know either.
I'm not real sure how fast it'll get to here.
But we wanted to bring this up to you because this is sort of like I don't know. But anyway, I'm having a brain cramp real bad today. But we wanted to bring this up to you because I want you to look into it, because this all ties into what we've always been talking about. Part of the theme of this show is life getting out of control for you and giving control to the government. And, it does echo the New World Order. So look into these things.
Yeah. So I think that we just need to realize that experience always trumps brilliance, and we should remember that as we experience these things, it doesn't mean that we aren't as smart as these 15-minute city guys or the people printing out the 24 billion. We have experienced it and know firsthand that this isn't ideal.
This is freedom crushing. It's potentially freedom crushing. When they take away all your desire for things, when they take away your creativity, they're really crushing the human spirit. And I can't believe people would actually think that this is a good thing. And but they are, and it is happening. So for me, I would prefer to be on a mountainside in Montana, living my own life.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's all I've got for today.
Well, we were going to talk about the fires in Canada. There's the Maui fires there too, but we can talk about that later on.
We can do that later this week, I guess.
There's some interesting things going on with the Maui fires. Very interesting there, and so I encourage the people that are watching the show today to look into it, because we'll talk about that in the next show. So remember, I would rather live a dangerous freedom than a peaceful slavery. And I'm going to say it over and over and over. So anyway, we're going to leave with that.
Yep.
All right, well, we'll see you next week.